çfarë gjuhë? Në italisht apo anglisht dhe nëse keni
Anglisht pa përkthim?
Në çfarë forme e doni që të evitojmë të pjesën e përkthimit, sepse besoj është shumë e lodhshme për të dy palët, domethënë ne që të flasim. Okej, demokracia është e tillë që me vota vendosin nëse duan anglisht apo në italisht.
I'll say a few words in English and a few words in Italian, so everybody will be happy.
Okay. Vërdrojis?
Buongiorno a tutti. I am very thankful to our colleagues here, the Vice Rector who addressed me these wonderful words. I was surprised to hear the history of my family, but I have to say that he knows it very well, and he represented not only the works of my uncle, but also my father, the reform of education in Italy, many details that I never would expect to hear in Albania, and in fact I did. So I'm very thankful for the invitation, and I'm thankful to Ersida Deliti, who has been introduced to me by my friend, my Italian friend Antonio Boccia, together with Elmira, another colleague. They have been absolutely wonderful to host us here and to welcome us here. Antonio has been attending and giving lectures here in Durres already since in the past 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And instead, it is my first time, so I'm glad to be here and surprised and and happy to develop further possibilities, either to come or to have my colleagues come to Italy, and perhaps even students one day, in possible exchanges. In fact, I am here not only for this lecture, but also to sign an agreement that will be established between the University of Cagliari, where I teach. Cagliari is the capital, so to say, of Sardinia, the island, one of the two main islands, there are very many in Italy. That's where I am, where I teach comparative law. And the agreement will provide the possibility to develop scientific cooperation, but also exchanges, mutual exchanges of either professors and students. So I'm sure it is a first step in a long way that we can explore together. Today I am going to tell you a few words about another issue which is not related to Sardinia, in fact. It's more related to Basilicata. Basilicata is a region which is much closer to Albania than Sardinia. And that's where I worked in the last 3 years as a member of the regional government. So I did some administrative work there. And it happens that in 2014, Matera has been selected as the European Capital of Culture, Capitale Europea della Cultura, which is a very important accomplishment, especially for the south of Italy, because it is the first time that a city in the south of Italy is nominated European Capital of Culture. So it is a big challenge. And this is given a new frontier for the south of Italy that I would like to share with you. Because I think that being confined in small boundaries will not give us, you know, the possibilities that this challenge in fact encompasses. Okay? I'll get back to the capital of culture in a minute, but let me tell you just 2 words about Matera, because if I ask you where Matera is, what it is about, I'm not sure I would get an answer from you, unless somebody raises his hand and says, I know everything about Matera, which I would be as surprised as I was in hearing the history of my family. Maybe someone here knows more than I do about this place. I doubt it, because it's a small city, 60,000 inhabitants. It's the capital of the province of Matera in the region of Basilicata, which is not very well known worldwide, and even in Italy. It starts to be known mainly because it has been selected as European Capital of Culture. But it's a very antique place, very antique place. It was founded in the 3rd century before Christ by Lucius Cecilius Metellus. That's why it was named Matera in the first place, and then it became Matera, the Romans there. Then it was conquered by a number of populations and domination by the Lombards. It was colonized by the Benedictine monks. In fact, if you go there, you find a number of churches that are carved in the rocks. Unbelievable, impressive monuments that date back to the Middle Ages. Then it was at the center of the fights between the Byzantines and the German emperors. But we know, we have evidence that life in Matera doesn't begin in the 3rd century before Christ. It begins much earlier, perhaps even thousands of years before, talking about 5, 6, 7,000 years ago, which we have evidence that there was a prehistoric settlement in which people lived in a very peculiar environment. Because if you go there, what strikes you most is the fact that there is a canyon which has been dug by a river, a ravine called Ravina. And this canyon has brought about caves, grottos, and that's where people lived through the course of time. And they used to live there until the 50s, the 60s, even the 70s, both human beings and animals together. There are pictures that they are called the Sassi di Matera, Matera stones. If you go on the internet and you digit Sassi di Matera, you'll see this impressive scenario in which there are naturally dug houses, grottos, caves, caverns, and even cisterns. For example, you walk in the main square of Matera, you would never imagine that underneath there is a very high, about 10 meters high cistern with water. You can go with a dinghy, you can row your boat under the pavement of the main square of Matera. Okay? It's also called the underground city, because there's more underground than what you see on plein air. The very peculiar thing is that until the 80s, 70s, 80s, people were ashamed of the conditions in which the population lived in Matera. There was even a law that was enacted in the 50s which prohibited inhabitants to continue to live in the caves. So they were forcibly moved, part of them, to new houses. Until in the 80s, this law was repealed, and people went back to live in the same places where their ancestors lived 7,000 years before. Very striking. Plus, the landscape in Matera reminds you the ancient sites around Jerusalem. That's why starting from the 60s, there were very famous movies played in Matera. For example, in 1964, Pierpaolo Pasolini played the very famous movie, The Gospel According to St. Matthew. You may have heard of it, 1964. Then after that, it was the case of the Passion of Christ. Then the case of the Nativity story. Then Berlinguer in this year and last year. Famous movies. Why? Because the landscape there reminds you of these ancient sites around Jerusalem, and that's why they tell you the Nativity story, and they're there. What is striking of Matera also? The fact that in 1993, UNESCO promoted the site, Sassi di Matera, as a UNESCO site. And in October 2014, 2 years ago, the city, the Sassi, the city itself, was nominated, as I was saying before, the capital, European capital of culture. Now, if I ask you, what do you think this means? What is being the European capital of culture? Does that mean that it's the most beautiful place in Europe? Perhaps not. This prize was instituted in the 80s, and it was instituted, we were talking about it yesterday, by the Council, European Council, thanks to the initiative of the Greek Foreign Minister Melina Mercouri in 1985. In fact, the first European capital of culture was Athens in 1985. Then it was Florence in 1986. Then in Italy, we had other two cities that were the European capital of cultures, Bologna and Genova. But there was never the case that the southern city would be nominated European capital of culture. So, southern fellows, colleagues, friends are very happy about it, but also they should bear in mind this is not only a prize that you can win and show, but it's a challenge, and you have to play the challenge and try to accomplish results. Not only cultural results, in my view also economic results. Let me tell you what I think that having a European capital of culture means in Italy. Because we are very famous in the world, you know, Italy bears 60% of the whole world cultural heritage. Hear this all the time. It is true that we have most UNESCO sites. We have 51. China has 50. But we're also famous for another thing which is not as positive. We have the lowest exploitation rate of our cultural heritage, which means that we're not good enough, to make it brutal, at rendering this immense richness economically valuable in terms of economic development, wealth. We're not as good, unfortunately. Let me give you a few figures, just to have an idea of what I'm talking about. We have roughly every year 18 million people who come visit these cultural sites. The average ticket is €6. Average ticket to go to Pompeii, Herculano, or museums throughout Italy is €6. The take Britain, the Tate Britain Gallery, which you know, I'm sure, has a yearly turnover. They make money in a year as much as all Italian museums. So one museum, can make as much turnover as an immense variety of museums that we have in our country. The 5 most performing museums, which my friends know very well: Uffizi di Firenze, la Pinacoteca di Brera, Milano, il Museo Egizio di Torino, il Museo Archeologico di Napoli e la Galleria Borghese di Roma. 5 museums, most performing museums, perhaps even the most known museums worldwide. Altogether, they make 12% of the turnover of the British Museum. Altogether, they make 6% of the yearly turnover of the Museum of Modern Arts. 6%. Altogether, they make 13% of the money that the Louvre makes in France, and 57% of the turnover of Museo il Prado in Madrid. Now, is it humanly possible that the 5 most performing museums in Italy make not even half of the money that one museum makes in Spain? Because this is the reality that we have before our eyes. I could talk to you about Pompeii in comparison with the Louvre, the British Museum, so on and so forth, but these are the figures more or less. We should also bear in mind that facing this immense heritage in Italy, we thought that a Ministry of Culture would be worth being instituted only in 1975. Our Ministry of Culture was instituted in 1975. It means that before 1975, we probably thought that it wasn't, necessary to have a Ministry of Culture. The law regulating services to museums, to the consumption of cultural goods in large scale, dates 1993, la legge Rucchelli. The law regulating sponsorships by private entities, was actually a law dedicated to the sponsorship of TV programs, Legge Mammì, 1990. So I'm trying to, to tell you that until the 90s, we haven't handed down a normative framework capable of regulating phenomena, services, access to museums, sponsorships, that, deal with the cultural heritage and its exploitations in good quotations, in Italy. You probably also heard about the state of preservation of our cultural heritage. When the House of Gladiators collapses in Pompeii, this, all the newspapers in the world talk about it. For us, it seems to be, normal, a normal daily habit. There's also another important detail which you should not, you should be aware of. The maintenance of cultural goods in Italy is borne by public finances. 89% of the budget comes from public finances. Private contributions are very small. very, very small. The average in Europe is 66%. So in Europe, cultural goods are maintained in 66% of the cases by public finance. The rest is the third sector, foundations, private donors, so on and so forth. So we are laid also in a virtuous relationship between private and public preservation and exploitation of cultural goods. Where does all this money go? Well, we have to be aware of another important thing, which is out of 800 million, which is the yearly cost to maintain all this richness, only 100 million comes from tickets and revenues coming from the exploitation itself. And most of it goes to pay employees. We have more than 20,000 employees, mostly guardians, that take care of these sites. So the money does not go in, maintaining, promoting. It goes in maintaining people more than the cultural heritage itself. Now, why am I saying all this? I mean, you may be surprised. This Italian strange professor comes here to tell us, the flaws of Italy, not only the beauties, but also the flaws. Yes, because you have to have a true picture of what Italy, which is your neighbor, is about when it comes to the cultural heritage, okay? Now, if this was the picture yesterday, too bad. But this is the picture in a world that has dramatically changed. Because this is the world in which Jeremy Rifkin says, marginal cost zero. Marginal cost zero means that the flow of information is so broad worldwide that you can run up businesses and activities with very little marginal cost, because you don't pay the information that you used to pay in the past, where you were obliged to travel to know things. Now you can know things staying comfortably on your couch at home. But this world is also characterized by other phenomena. One is the cost of transportation. You can go to Bari, is living in a few hours. I will go to Rome with airplanes that in the past you could not take. Low-cost transportation has demonstrated that you don't have to go to the capital of Albania or Italy to fly out. You can fly out from your house or the closest surrounding airport that you have. And normally you have an airport every 100 kilometers. At least this happens in Italy, center, north. South is a bit penalized. Today you can really travel with very little money. This is why in 2012, 1 billion people spent a vacation abroad in the world. It was the first year. 1 billion people went abroad, not for work, for vacation. This is due to the cost of transport, which is going down, which is going dramatically down. But this world is also characterized by another phenomenon. The cultural level of people is raising worldwide. So you have cost of transport that goes down and cultural awareness that goes up. Okay? What does that mean? It means that people can go easily abroad to see cultural goods that they understand. They used not to understand them, now they understand them. Are you familiar with the Alfred Marshall theory it's an economic concept. I don't know if I may stress it. The marginal cost, the marginal benefit in the consumption of cultural goods raises with quantities. What does it mean? If I like apples, I buy an apple. I bite the apple. I get the benefit of biting the apple. I like it. But if I bite it twice, I will get a marginal benefit increasing. I will get the same taste. I will like it again. But if I eat 3 apples, I will not be satisfied more in the taste than just biting one. So the marginal benefit of eating apples does not increase with quantities. The marginal benefit of the consumption of cultural goods increases with quantities. If I see a picture by Mantegna, Giorgione, the school of Veneto, first of all, first sight, I don't even pay attention perhaps. Second time, I recognize that picture. Third time, I say, well, let me understand what other members of that school, that period, that, how they draw their paintings. Or even if you listen to music, it happens to you to hear the music and you don't pay attention to it, right? Then you're going home and you find yourself whistling that music that you hadn't paid attention before. And then you want to hear it again. And perhaps, and you get more marginal benefit in the consumption of that good. This happens only in cultural goods. The Alfred Marshall theory. Plus, cultural goods are not rival. You know what rivalry is in economics? Do you know? Do you have an idea of rival goods are in economics? Well, we sit around the table. There is one apple in between. If I eat the apple, my colleague won't eat it. So, rivalry is, the apple is a rival good. If I consume it, I will prevent the other consumer to consume it in the same time. If we sit around the table and we look at a picture, I will consume that cultural good as much as the others. Or if we sit around the table, we have an idea, each one of us, and you express the idea. When I leave the table, I will not have one idea. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each of them will have 5 ideas, but they came with one. That's non-rival goods. Cultural goods are non-rival goods. Okay. Now, you're probably thinking, where does this guy want to bring us? It's like a fairy tale of which we don't see the end. Well, the fairy tales want to tell you that in a world with cost of transport that goes down, cultural awareness that goes up, the Alfred Marshall spiral, contagious spiral, which means you know more about, the Romans, temples. In Italy, you want to know more, you like it more, you're ready to pay more to go and see them. Plus, scholars and commentators today divide the world in 2 parts, more or less. Those countries which have more offer of cultural goods than demand, and those countries which have more demand of cultural goods than offer. They don't have much cultural sites. Now, Italy is certainly a source nation, not a market nation, meaning we have a number of cultural goods which exceeds largely demand. So, now, trying to draw a line and getting to the meaning of this. Is this possible that in today's world, where people are ready to travel, they want to consume cultural goods. The cost for them to reach them is very low comparatively to the past. Italy has an enormous heritage. Why is it that we are not in the position and we have not developed the capacity to play this immense opportunity and challenge worldwide? Okay, see, it's quite impressive. And at this point, I go back to the original question. What does having the European capital of culture mean in a world like this today? Is it the case, of promoting events in the province of Matera? Perhaps not. Is having the European capital of culture mean that, we're going to have few expositions, 2 conferences, some debate, local debate? Is that enough to acquire all the possible objectives and that this immense challenge brings on our table? Is that enough? I don't think it is enough. I think the only way to play this challenge is to share it with others, is to open our doors and let other people like you Albanians know what is in Matera, what our history is about, where we come from, if we have common origins and routes, if we have common interests, if we have common goals, because the horizons have to open. Otherwise, this challenge is lost from the beginning. It's going to be some, local celebration that nobody will ever talk about the day after 2019, because the prize is for Matera, Capital of Culture, in the year 2019, which is tomorrow. That's why, when I came here and I was invited by my friends to sign this agreement among universities, I said, maybe this is the right time to encompass our friends Albanians in a complex overall reasoning about what having the European capital of culture means. Okay? Plus, I have to tell you one more thing. Having the European capital of culture gives us the possibility to nominate extra European Union partners who may, walk with us throughout this whole path that leads us to 2019, with common activities, common projects, which can be financed if we bring them on together. Why not try to persuade Matera to have Durres, perhaps, or other Albanian cities as partners in this very challenging objective? It is possible. But the only way we can do it is if we establish a broad cooperation, not only among universities, but among universities, municipalities, regions, and even on the economic side, involve the private actors, like Chamber of Commerce, entrepreneurs, to bring about common projects. That's why yesterday I was happy to meet the mayor of Durres and the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the local Chamber of Commerce, to whom I explained in very few words the possibilities that we have if we draw a common cooperation path that can help us acquiring all the objectives that we think valuable and of common interest for us and for you. This, I think, is the only way we can really, play this challenge and win it. 2019, even another city, Plovdiv in Bulgaria, will have European Capital of Culture. Even with them, I think we should, bring about a common reasoning. I don't think this has been done until today. But I think it's worth giving it a try. And I think it's good that today and tomorrow, you will know that you will have a neighbor city, which is the European Capital of Culture, Matera. Perhaps you didn't know it until today. So a small objective, a small goal, I think it's been already acquired with this visit here. And I think there will be many more to come if we really manage to keep these agreements alive and kicking, and bring about common goals and common objectives in a fruitful cooperation framework. Thank you very much.